It's a subject that's close to my heart. And even though epidural labor analgesia is considered the gold standard for labor analgesia, but many anesthesiologists tick off the other alternatives, like they're not very popular. They have, not many people are practicing them. So I've been using some of these techniques and found them very useful. And before I start on the techniques, there are two important points to ponder, because labor analgesia is an analgesia which is not just analgesia by itself. It is intrinsically linked to the maternal and fetal outcome. This is very important, because what if the patient gets good analgesia but the mother suffers? And what if the baby is not doing well later on? And if this is because of the labor analgesia? So this is something very important that we have always to think about. So here is an important thing that all obstetricians know, but we don't really think about it. Upright posture shortens the duration of labor by walking. So walking actually reduces the duration of labor. And how does that happen? The weight of the fetus falling over the cervix helps in cervical dilatation. So these are very important things. So this is just to show you that labor analgesia can be pharmacological techniques and non-pharmacological techniques. And amongst the pharmacological techniques, we have neuraxial blockade and systemic analgesia. So amongst the pharmacological techniques, we have two types of techniques. One is the systemic opioids, which are popular, and inhalational anesthesia. Now, systemic opioids are popular because mostly in many of the centers, like in our center also, they are administered by the obstetricians themselves. They have a good idea of the dosage, they use it themselves, give it intramuscularly, and that's it. They never call the anesthetist. So this has been used for many years. Now, the common systemic opioids being used are pethidine, used for dog's ears, then fentanyl, remifentanil, and tramadol. In my own institution, tramadol is being used regularly by obstetricians themselves. Now, pethidine has got a long history of use, and but it is limited by the side effects which are present with most opioids, that is sedation, nausea, vomiting, delayed gastric emptying, respiratory depression, and combined with doubtful analgesic effectiveness. So this led to better and newer opioids being used, such as remifentanil. And here we can see one of the studies. So this first one is a study which says that using a patient-controlled analgesic bolus dose of 40 micrograms with a 2-minute lockout period, they had good analgesia. But what was the problem? That background infusion can improve the analgesia, but maternal desaturation or even apnea is likely with this dose. So if you give, in this much dose it is okay, but if you give a maternal background infusion, then it can cause this. And 50% of the neonates may need assisted ventilation and occasionally also naloxone. So this is a problem. So there was another study in 2009 which says that continuous infusion at a maximum dose of 0.15 microgram per kg per minute, associated or not with a bolus, administered by PCA, seems to result in an acceptable and clinically satisfactory mean decrease in pain scores during labor. So the previous one was more suggested that sedation can be used, but the second one says that if you use this kind of a dose, then probably you will not get sedation. And this is a study which compared pethidine, remifentanil, and fentanyl, and found that the analgesia was definitely better with fentanyl and with remifentanil, and less with fentanyl, and the least with pethidine. And here are some of the other opioids which have been used in labor. So nalbuphine, meptazolone, even pentazocine has been used for labor, and buterphenol has been used. And lastly, tramadol. So tramadol has gained a lot of respect by the obstetricians simply because it causes less respiratory depression, and it is supposed to, there's a few studies which say that it shortens the duration of labor by speeding the rate of cervical dilatation. Then we come to the inhalational agents. So first I'll talk about Entonox. So Entonox, you can see the cylinder. So there are various methods of giving, using a bite block or using a face mask directly with the cylinder. And Entonox has also been used for half a century nearly, but it is not popular. It was used long back, but it's not popular. And in my own institution, I've never seen anybody giving Entonox. The advantages are it is quick acting. It can be under the patient's control. As soon as the patient becomes deep, she loses control of the mask and it falls down. So patient surfaces again. So that is the inbuilt advantage. And it is administered by a demand wall using a mouthpiece bite block. And it should be administered about 60 seconds prior to the onset of contraction. So as soon as the patient starts feeling a contraction, she must start taking the Entonox. But there are many side effects of Entonox: earache, dry mouth, dizziness, disorientation, oversedation, nausea and vomiting. However, it is considered safe for the baby. That is its advantage. Then sevoflurane has also been used for inhalational anesthesia for labor. And this was one study by Yeo et al. In 2007 that sevoflurane was administered via a drawer Oxford miniature vaporizer. And what did they find? That there was a dose-dependent increase in pain relief. You can see on the right side that there's a graph which says that both the sedation and the pain relief were going on, increasing proportionately. So if analgesia increases, sedation increases automatically. But there was no increase in pain relief after giving 0.8% of sevoflurane. But there were no side effects. And 2 patients did not like the smell. Out of the 28 patients, 2 patients refused, said that we don't like the smell, we'd rather not have this analgesia. And this was a study where they compared sevoflurane to Entonox. This was a crossover study in which one group they gave sevoflurane, then gave Entonox, then again gave sevoflurane to compare. The patient acted as control. And the other group they gave just the opposite. And what they found was that sevoflurane was preferred to Entonox as it is stronger. That is, better analgesia is there. However, the side effects were equal. Isoflurane has also been used for labor analgesia. This was before sevoflurane. But this is no longer used. And in this, they found that the comparison of for the first study they found, comparison of the analgesic effect of Entonox, 50% nitrous oxide and oxygen, and Entonox with 0.2% of isoflurane. So one group got only Entonox and one with 0.2% isoflurane. And they found that the VAS scores were lower in the patients with isoflurane, but there was no problem of drowsiness. So probably isoflurane was good. Then in another study, Gambling et al. Have compared sevoflurane 1% or isoflurane 0.5% with Entonox. That means sevoflurane was used with oxygen and then isoflurane was used with Entonox, combination with Entonox. And they have found that both are equally effective and there was similar maternal and fetal outcomes. So thereafter, sevoflurane has gained importance because it is quicker in onset. You don't need to give nitrous oxide with it, and you can give 100% oxygen. Then we come to the non-pharmacological methods of labor analgesia. So this slide shows the components of pain. That is, contractions and stage of labor and all these affect the physical effect, that is the pain, and the emotional effect also. So there are many other factors which are affecting, like birth preparation, personality, environment, age, socioeconomic level, religion, all these things. And these affect the behavior and of the patient, that is, which is expressed as muscular reaction and language, or crying, that is crying and expressing anguish at that time. So techniques for labor analgesia, non-pharmacological techniques, can be divided into techniques that reduce painful stimuli, psychoprophylaxis, and techniques that activate the peripheral sensory perception. Now coming to techniques that reduce the painful stimuli, these are not really in our hands. This is more the domain of the obstetrician. because maternal movement, change in position, this can be done easily by the obstetrician. And then counter pressure, we really don't know how to apply, abdominal decompression. So these can reduce the pain. Then we come to psychoprophylaxis. So out of these, there are many techniques which are used for psychoprophylaxis in the patient. So continuous labor support has been, this is again more in the domain of the obstetrician. Psychological support by the midwife or family member. That is, they are present throughout the labor and they keep on calming the patient and giving reassurance. And this helps to calm the patient, and positive outcome has been seen by this alone. Then yoga. So how does yoga work? It proposes control of mind and body. And the women are taught how to breathe during the pain of contractions and holding the Veerbhadra Asana. This is the Veerbhadra Asana which I am showing. And this has been modified by many of the obstetricians by using birthing balls, which the patient keeps between her legs and comes into this position automatically. And during the contraction, if she comes into this position, it is found that the pain is much less. And this yoga acts by achieving the changes in the level of consciousness and relaxation, receptivity to the world and inner peace. It shortens the duration of labor and decreases pain and reduces the need for analgesic medication. And in Delhi, I found that some of them are using these birthing balls to reduce the pain of labor. Then some of these techniques are sophrology, which is similar to yoga, and again, mind-body intervention. Then the next is Leboy's method. And this focuses on providing a better welcome for the newborn. In contrast to the usual environment, where too much labor room noise and all that is there, the patient is put in a calm, dark room and there is no noise. And it is found that this helps in reducing, and you give a warm bath to the patient, and it is found that this helps in reducing the pain significantly, and acceptability is very high amongst the mothers. Then we also have the Lemaire's technique. This is, again, I found that in Delhi, it is being practiced by some of the obstetricians. And this is a technique which was optimistically called painless birth, but later called fearless birth, because it is based on the Pavlovian concept of conditioned reflex training. So patient is asked to breathe deeply during the contractions and focus on some object, like a mark on a nearby wall, or you can give according to the religion, you can give some signs or photograph of some, whatever they believe in. So patient focuses on that and thinks about God helping her like that. And it seems to reduce the pain during labor. And hypnosis definitely reduces. It has been found that, but it requires training to use hypnosis. And some anesthetists have been using hypnosis. Only today, Dr. Tarlika told me that one surgery was carried out. She has witnessed a surgery being carried out under hypnosis. So it does work. And the woman is prepared with initial hypnotic experiences that include 3 steps: absorption of the words or images presented by the therapist, dissociation, and a suspension of critical judgment and responsiveness. So all these are altered by making suggestions to the patient. And music therapy has also been used. So those sound strange, but it has been seen that physiology is definitely affected by music. In Holland, they have done some experiments where they found that playing a certain type of music caused cows to give more milk. So it affects the physiology. But how it affects, it is still very complex, because it is easy to say that it affects the brain, but where exactly it affects, all this is not very clear still. But it has been seen that a slow and restful type of music may be used to promote relaxation during the early stage of labor, and music with steady beat can be used as a stimulant to promote movement during the later stages. And in Indian history, in music therapy, it has been found that some of the ragas, according to the day, if they are played to the pregnant woman, it helps in reducing the VAS scores. But there are very few scientific analysis in this. Then there is aromatherapy. So olefaction or giving vapors of substances like lavender and all helps to reduce the pain. And it is said that receptors stimulate the olfactory sensors that affect the limbic system. And limbic system triggers release of endorphins, enkephalins, and serotonin, leading to a restful, balanced mood and awareness of sensations and analgesia. And it can be used by breathing or by putting it in the warm water in which the patient is taking a bath, and it is absorbed from the skin within 20 to 40 minutes, and it leads to good analgesia. Then we come to the techniques that activate peripheral sensory perception. These are more the domain of the anesthetist than the previous techniques. So here are some of the techniques. I'll go through them one by one. But before we go through this, there is an important area that we need to cover. That is the Micheli's rhomboid, which is the area over the sacrum. I've drawn the Micheli's rhomboid here. So that is the area, and it is found that applying anything on this area, giving analgesia here, trying to focus your analgesic techniques here, seems to help. And evidence for this is there that cutaneous afferents from the lower back converge to the dorsal horns in the same segments. And there is anatomical support for the lower back pain being a referred pain. So focusing on this area, we'll come to the techniques one by one. The warm water baths. So this is again used in the Micheli's rhomboid. So patient can sit in the warm water and maintain the water at below body temperature and limit the bath time to 1 or 2 hours. Then superficial application of heat and cold or cold. So this I have tried myself and found that it gives very good analgesia. As soon as the contraction starts, you use a heat source such as a hot water bottle or heated rice sock or warm compress. So what I have used is a gauze piece soaked in warm water and massage the back over the Micheli's rhomboid and found that it gives very good analgesia. The patients in whom I have used were very happy with this, and they caught hold of me and said, continue with this please till we deliver. So this can be easily done by anybody. It doesn't need an anesthetist to do it. So long as we know and we guide the patient's relations or the nurses, this can be done very easily. Then acupuncture is another area. But the problem with acupuncture is it requires training. It is not something that you can do offhand that, okay, today I'll do acupuncture. You need to know how to give acupuncture and to do it. So acupuncture points have electrical properties that when stimulated may alter the level of chemical neurotransmitters in the body. Endorphins are released during the activation of the hypothalamus. And the effect has been attributed to alteration in the natural electric currents or electromagnetic fields in the body. And it inhibits the descending neural pathway according to the gate control theory of pain. But as I said, it's a precise art which requires extensive training. And these are some of the points. Those who know acupuncture would be knowing these points, that there are points in the hand, palm, foot, hip, and lower back and shoulder. So any of these points can be, or combination of points can be stimulated. And they can be stimulated during either continuously or as soon as the contraction starts. And stimulation can be done either by a needle or it can be done by acupressure or massage. So this is similar that these points are stimulated by massaging this area or giving pressure. And as soon as the contraction starts, you can start massaging these points, and it seems to give very good analgesia. Then we come to sterile water injections. So we have already talked about the Micheli's rhomboids. So there are 2 points where the sterile water injections are given during the first stage of labor. This is at the posterior superior iliac spine, that is the first point, and the second point is 1 centimeter medial and 2 centimeters below it. And these are given intracutaneously, simultaneously on each side to coincide with the labor contraction. That is, when the patient is having maximum pain, you give it then, so that patient doesn't feel this pain, feels the other pain. And brief stinging pain is there when the injection is given. The effect lasts for 45 to 90 minutes. This is most of the studies earlier had said. Now, this was my own study, which I had published in 2009. We had done about 100 patients, half of whom were given saline and half were given sterile water. And what we found was that the patients who got sterile water got very good pain relief. In fact, the first time when I gave sterile water injection, I was surprised that the patient who was having pain went out to sleep. So I thought, this is a fluke, it can't be. Second patient I gave, exactly the same thing happened. Then I realized this is a very good technique and we must do a study on this. And when we did the study, we published it and found that it is a wonderful technique, hardly any cost, Very easy to give. And in my own institution, actually, last time when we were having one of the society presentations, so one obstetrician said, why don't you use it in your institution then if it's so good, when I presented this paper. So I decided that, well, we should do it. So I told my HOD that I want to do this in the labor room. And she said, go ahead, you teach my residents. So in my institution now, this is standard practice. And my PGs are also going and giving. And if my PGs don't go, the obstetricians are very upset. They said, no, there's too much noise in the labor room. Please send somebody to give the sterile water injection. So this is a very good technique. And it is very useful for the low back pain during the initial part. The earlier studies which were done with 0.1 ml. I used 0.5 ml and found that 0.5 ml gives longer duration of analgesia, and it can be administered by the patient's midwife, by the obstetrician, by the nurse, anybody. And no side effects have been seen. That is the most beautiful part of this technique. And in one patient, what I found was that crowning was happening, but the patient was not feeling the pain of the crowning. So even in the second stage, it does give some degree of analgesia. Of course, you have to give the local anesthetic for the episiotomy, but it reduces the pain. So then we come to the last technique, that is transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation. Now, in most of the studies that reviews that I've read, or when I come into interaction with other people, they said, oh, does TENS really work? So TENS has been used again for dog's ears, but the technique of TENS has evolved over the years. Because earlier they were using, there are three things in TENS: the points where you stimulate, what concentration, what frequency you give, and how much current stimulation you give. So all three are very important. So with the present technique, we are, actually my PG is doing a thesis on this. So what we are finding that it works very well, and patients are very relaxed after they have started TENS. And with the hand-held TELS, I'll just come to the hand-held TELS. So it stimulates the A-beta sensory nerves, which exceeds the sensory input, causing the gates to close. And again, the gate control theory. And there are few potential side effects from TENS when used by a healthy individual, hardly any. And TENS may interfere with the electronic fetal monitoring. That is the only drawback. So you can stop the TENS when they want to do the electronic fetal monitoring and then start it again. So this is the TENS, handheld TENS that we were talking about, and this is how it is. It looks like a cell phone. So patient can hold it in the hand, and this is where you put the electrodes. So in the first stage, you put it in the T10 to T11 one, you stimulate, and in the second stage, as the patient starts feeling the lower pain, you start the S2 to S4 stimulation. And what happens is that as soon as the contraction starts, there's a boost switch here. So the patient presses the boost switch, it becomes on demand. So patient is empowered. She holds the thing and continues with the thing. As soon as she starts feeling the contraction, she just presses the boost switch. And this gives her something to do also. And during the time when she has the pain, she keeps it pressed, and as soon as the contraction goes away, she releases it. It comes back to the basal contraction again. So this is what I was saying, that just half a second. So what we do is that we have to give high frequency. That is important. The position I've talked about, and frequency has to be more than 50 hertz. So we are using the Mama TENS. This is a machine which is made specially for labor analgesia. This gives about 85 hertz. So at 100 hertz, they have found better results and give as high a current as the patient can tolerate, and go on increasing the current as the patient's labor progresses. And we witnessed wonderful deliveries using TENS. Thank you. So I think that is all that I have.